13astrology.com. So I'm gonna just drop on this one real quick and just answer the question about crisis stories and the difference between a crisis story and reality TV, and are any of these news stories even real? And I'll say this: they're all crisis stories documenting real events. See, I went to school for marketing and I studied media, and there's an occult aspect to it. And they don't teach you it until you get to the high levels of the marketing class. They'll take you to the occult aspect of it. And there's an occult aspect of marketing because anything that comes on television is governed by lawyers in the legal system, right? And much of what happens in reality is outside of the realm of computers and in the realm of what's called reality, or in the Matrix they call this Zion. And this is the real world, right? So a lot of times they can't document information coming from the real world or the streets or what really took place on the streets. They can't document that information legally and use certain names because of the fact that they can only deal in what's called corporate law. So what they do is they create crisis stories. This is why they do it. It's an art to it, believe it or not. It's a business, believe it or not. I studied this to even get into like formulating and creating this channel, and I know it for sure because I've studied it over and over again. So most of the stories I can decode them. They're usually crisis stories, again, cloaking the truth. And the truth of the matter is that things that go on in the streets, the events that take place in the streets, cannot be legally talked about unless consent is given, unless this is documented in some form of a way by the community or the neighborhood or the event or the people that played a role in the event. So like a lot of times the name that they use, for instance, like if they use a name like a first and last name, like say they use the name Elliot Michael, like if they use the name Elliot Michael, these two names mean something. They have to be decoded. The whole story is written and formulated in a code, and it's a crisis story, again documenting true events. So the name that's used, for instance, if they use the name Elliot Michael, the name that's used is usually representing more than one person in the event. It's usually representing a group of people, usually in the event. So why do they do this? Like, why can't they just get the people's consent and do it, go about it through, that way? And that's what they would call hardcore journalism. Some journalists do that. They do that a lot. You have a few on CNN. They do real stories, but you notice a lot of times it's overseas, and that's real journalism. Essentially, what that is, that's when they get out there in the trenches and actually work with the people and rub shoulders with the people, versus this bull crap that we got going on now, where they just create a story in the studio somewhere because they don't feel like going out there. They just come up with a crisis story. That's what they do because it's more lucrative to them. They don't want to get out in the real and get into the real computer, which is this world and this earth. And this earth is called key, because this earth is the keys for the computer system on Mercury. See, this is what they're not going to teach people or whatever. So you got to get out here if you really want to affect change on the planet for real. Shooting a video in the studio, that's cool. I mean, I'm not dissing the media, but I'm saying you got to take it a step further. And I love their stories. I'm gonna shut down with this. I love their stories, however, got to keep it real, man. Get out here with the people and rub shoulders with them. So that's gonna do it for me today. You guys have a great day. Stay vigilant.